Turkaholics, and welcome back to Football a la Turca. This is Season 2, Episode 12 for Matchday 12 in the Turkish Super League, coming off of the international break in which Turkey, of course, qualified for Euro 2020 after a 0-0 draw with Iceland and a 2-0 win against Andorra. My name is Kaan Bayazit, and I'm joined once again by Umut, Naderi, Yakup, Marufoglu, no man of the Law Burak Sezgin, as he is still on his way back from the States. But Özer Dindjer has graced us with his presence. Özer, what have you been up to the last couple of weeks?
Oh, it's good to be back. It's good to be home. I've been polishing my radio face for television, in fact, and I had a few appearances on TRT World on their show Beyond the Game, which is on every Monday at 6:30 GMT. Just been talking about Galatasaray initially on 3 weeks ago about the Real Madrid game. I wasn't too optimistic, and I was pretty transparent about that at the time. And then two following shows where I talked about the Turkish national team, which is obviously a lot more positive, a lot brighter note. So they haven't invited me back this week, I guess, because I'm going to drown the show in a lot more negativity.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. But before we do so, let's quickly hit some news that happened in Turkish football over the week. So the first news bite I have is Caykur Rizespor have actually made history by appointing the first ever female club president. Her name is Berna Gözbaşı. She had an interesting quote today, I think. Umut shared it with us, that she didn't really understand the offside rule, but as long as the players understand it, it's okay, or something like that. It does not inspire a lot of confidence. And some more stuff here with Caykur Rizespor and some other involved clubs. In fact, FIFPro have warned players before signing with Turkish clubs due to financial difficulties. In particular, Karabükspor, Bursaspor, Antalyaspor, Caykur Rizespor, Elazığspor, Ankaragücü, and Eskişehir. Those clubs in particular, they have warned players before joining them to have a lawyer, properly go over the contracts and stuff like that. But in general, we know, of course, that the hurt is being put on Turkish clubs a little bit due to the economy the last 2 years. It's not just these clubs, for sure. The big clubs are affected, as we all know. We know all too well. But this is pretty serious. The Players Union, FIFPro, warning players ahead of signing for these clubs. But we'll have to wait and see if it has any impact. Any thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Yeah, as if Turkish self-mismanagement wasn't bad enough. Mm-hmm. Now that there's this layer of pressure on top as well, it's going to be difficult for Turkish clubs in the near future, I think.
Definitely. And if you want to read the full statement, we'll tweet out a link later, or something like that. We'll see. We'll tweet out the link on the official Twitter account of Football a la Turca, so you can check it out for yourself. Let's move over to football, though. Let's move over to the Super League that returned from the international break with match day 12 in the 2019-2020 season. And on Friday, we started off with Galatasaray hosting Basaksehir. Galatasaray would lose this match for the first time in 930 days in the Turkish Super League, at least. 930 days since their last defeat. That was 41 league games ago. On May 6th, 2017, Galatasaray lost at home against Kasimpasa 1-3. So it's been quite a long time since Galatasaray has tasted the agony of defeat in the Turkish league. But it would happen here against Basaksehir, as Fredrik Gulbrandsen scored the only goal of the match in the 78th minute. And Özer, you weren't invited back on TRT to talk about this week, but you are invited on Football a la Turca.
Yes.
Vent away, my friends.
Well, it's unfortunate that this was the first game, because it means we're going to start the show off on a downer. But, Galatasaray's form generally this season has been pretty abysmal. European record has been catastrophic, to say the least. But we had at least one glorious streak that kept us going a little bit in the domestic league, at least, and that was the 41 unbeaten home record, which is pretty impressive by any means. But now that is gone, and I'm looking around to see positives at Galatasaray, and I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing any spark, any indication that we're going to turn any corner anytime soon. As well as losing the game, of course, we failed to score again. and I think I've lost count now of how many games we've gone without scoring. I mean, I just miss celebrating a goal, you know? I miss that spontaneous excitement, that jumping for joy, that screaming, that running around the room, that spilling of beer all over the place. I haven't seen it anywhere. And looking ahead at the Bruges game, I don't know where the goal is going to come from. I mean, my only hope really is that Jagne pops up and scores an own goal. That's the only way we're going to end up celebrating a goal in that game, I think. I'm very pessimistic about our chances in that match too. Head back to this game though. I mean, we actually did have a few decent chances. Feghouli had a few good chances in the first half and one in the second. I think we recorded 12 shots on target, which is quite impressive by our own standards, but not really saying much beyond that. And I think who do we point the finger to this time? Well, I think the last time I was on the show, which would have been about 3 weeks ago, I would have gone to my classic scapegoat, Belhanda. He didn't start the game this time. So when I saw the starting lineup, I thought, well, at least that's one thing that I don't have to worry about. But I think as the tide has turned in recent weeks, it's become pretty clear that the man who faces the blame is none other than Fatih Terim, whose squad selection, his tactics, his reasoning, everything about him is just completely off form. And his failure to inject the team with youngsters or even just fresh names has really cost the momentum of the fans and has really cost his own credibility in the eyes of the fans as well. He came out in the press conference yesterday ahead of the Bruges game and basically pleaded with the fans to support Belhanda in the coming game. I think really it's too little too late from him pleading with the fans at this stage. It makes him look very desperate. It makes us look very desperate. And it puts actually a lot more pressure on Belhanda as well. So I think together the two guys are kind of complementing each other well in terms of that scapegoat route. But we're just not playing good enough football. We could, of course, talk about the ridiculously long list of injuries. I think we've got 10 injured or at least ineligible players for Tuesday's game. I mean, Linus...
and this game too, you played with the C team.
Right, yeah, of course. With the C team, yeah.
If that.
If that. And now looking ahead, Babel is injured. Luyendam, of course, got injured in the international break and didn't play at the weekend. I mean, we signed 12 new players at the summertime. We were celebrating. Things looked so rosy. We were back-to-back champions. We signed Falcao. 12 new players. And now we have 11 ineligible players for Tuesday. Mm-hmm. We had to play a C team at the weekend against Basaksehir. And I think, really, we could say that the new school, i.e. the young generation of coaches, we're seeing them kind of really do one over on the old school of coaches these days. Well, Kaan Buruk definitely did that to Terim. I think his tactics were spot on. His squad selection. Remember that he had to play Gulbanson, who ended up scoring the goal, who isn't by any means the first choice for Basaksehir. He's doing all the right things, Kaan Buruk, and I think in his mind he probably has his eyes on the Galatasaray job one day in the future. And I think he's doing all the right things from his own perspective to try and get into the candidacy for that role. I just think that Terim is flagging a lot, very, very off form, has a lot of excuses through injury and what have you, but it's ultimately down to poor planning, poor tactics, and poor decision-making, even within the game as well, because if you look at the substitutions, Feghouli came off against, in the 76th minute, he was probably our best player on the field. Yuto Nagatomo and Belhanda came on in the 86th. We're already 1-0 down. What impact are these guys going to have in the last 4 minutes? Mm-hmm. I think he's just clutching at straws, desperation all over the shop. And if we cannot get 3 points against Bruges, then things are going to be very difficult for him in the run-up to Christmas. I tweeted back at the start of summer the nightmare scenario for Gala. That is, no Falcao, embarrassment in the Champions League, embarrassment in the domestic league will only result in Terim's dismissal or his resignation. I mean, we have Falcao, but Falcao's nowhere to be seen, so it's essentially the same as no Falcao. And I think that doomsday scenario is reaching ever closer. So Tuesday is a huge, huge obstacle for Gala.
Yeah, for sure. Difficult times for Galatasaray. They're going through a crisis, I think it's safe to say. But like you said, yeah, plenty of injuries here, and it's curious to see that pretty much every club this season has been hit by the injury bug. Besiktas had to deal with a lot of injuries in the beginning of the season up until just recently, really. Trabzonspor have had some serious injury blows, in particular with Abdülkadir Ömür being out for a long period of time. And then they had a couple of shorter-term injuries. Fortunately for them, most of those guys have returned now, but still, they got hit by it. Fenerbahçe will be talking about that a little later. They got hit by the injury bug too. They are basically rendered without striker, just like Galatasaray are right now. For their match this week, with Vedat Muric being out, Mehmet Erdinç being out, and Max Kruse was already out for a while, and we've seen it with all the big clubs really. Basaksehir have been spared pretty much from injuries, and then of course Alanya, Sivasspor, they haven't really had much injuries to deal with, but they're at the top of the table, so I'm mentioning them. But the big three or the big four. They've all dealt with a lot of injuries this season, it feels like. And maybe it has a little bit to do with the age of players. Maybe it's a little coincidence too. I don't know. But it's difficult to win a match against an informed team like Basaksehir when you're dealing with that kind of thing. I mean, it's a little extreme if you look at the players that Galatasaray missed over the weekend. And I was actually, honestly, the squad selection Okan Buruk came up with, I wasn't too impressed. I thought he was very defensive. I think he started like 3 defensive midfielders. I think that against the team that Galatasaray were forced to field, he should have been a little bit more confident and showed a little bit more, attitude maybe, a little bit more confidence in his own ability or his team's ability to win it. I felt that they kind of stole it because I think Galatasaray had the better chances all in all. There was like one really good chance for Crivelli, I think, but like you said, there was in the first half, there was that Ömer Bayram free kick, I think, that almost went in. And then, of course, you had the Feguli chance in the second half that was really close too. Galatasaray could have won this match. This was one of those games where I think whoever got the first goal will probably get the win. And because Galatasaray didn't score, Basaksehir hit them on the at some point late in the match. But I wasn't too impressed with Basaksehir, if I'm quite honest.
Well, this was one of those games where Galatasaray probably on balance played better, although created nothing and scored nothing, but probably played better, but still ended up losing. Whereas at the start of the season, there were a lot of games where Gala played pretty bad and ended up still getting the 3 points. So I think it's key here that our luck has turned against us as well.
It's against one of the better teams in the league, of course. So if you don't, the scoring issue, I actually went over it just now. I think I might have counted wrong, but I think that Galatasaray have failed to score in 10 games already this season, and we're 12 games into the league season, and then 3 or 4 in Europe. 4 in Europe, so 16 official. 4. So 16 official games, and in 10 of those they failed to score, I think. It seems extreme, actually. I might have counted wrong, but I think it was
pretty scandalous.
Yeah. Umut, what did you think of this match? It's difficult maybe to crucify Terim given the cards he was dealt due to the injuries. What did you think of the performance?
Well, just before the game, I was quite shocked. The fact that Arda Turan came by the bench and kissed Fatih's hand and like in a Godfather style and hugged him like. And I was thinking that, is he like searching for a door to came back to Galatasaray again? No. I hate that idea because I don't want it to happen because we are already just suffering from old players and injuries. And this kind of player with this kind of ideology, with no work ethic at all, I hate that. No, I don't want him to come, but whatever. So, as you said, Okan Buruk came out with a defensive formation with Mehmet Topal in the middle and Mahmut Tekdemir and
Azubuike.
Azubuike surrounding him. And also, he played İrfan Can Kahveci as a flank winger, switching sides with Edin Visca time to time during the game. And also, the goal came from his switch with Edin Visca. He was at the right-hand side when he assisted the goal. Fredrik Gulbrandsen scored a great goal, and because of his run to the defensive third. And we like that because none of our players do that kind of runs when we have the possession of the ball. They just wait on the field and want the ball in their feet. And that kind of static ideology we have, like not moving around, roaming around, off the ball runs are lacking, and we need some spark of it, and none of it ever happens because I think it comes with the age and the athleticism of the player, and we don't see that from none of the Babel or Mariano or Feguli as well. Even Emre Mor doesn't do it. I don't know why. I think it's because of his lack of knowledge of the game, know-how. So we started the game without our main players, of course. None of the strikers are original strikers. So Adembuyuk and Babel tried to play and all. And I hope they would do better because they played with each other, like side by side in Kasimpasa at the time for like 2 years or so. I don't know. I hope them to be better than what they quite showed during the game, but it was devastating. They didn't got a chance inside the box. Like only chances we got from Feguli or like Ömer Bayram, and Emre Taşdemir's efforts. And I hated Mariano this game. Like he was just horrendous. Like couldn't catch. Like during the goal of the Basaksehir, he couldn't like turn back and catch Gulbrandsen on his flank, and he failed to do it. He just Gulbrandsen was just free and all to score a goal. Mm-hmm. But couldn't say like more to it because also the Fatih's attempt of substitution was too late. As Özer said, like what are you expecting from a substitution you make from like 86th minute? Like you have like only 5 or 6 minutes to go maximum, and quality defending team like Başakşehir, you won't get any chance for it. Mm-hmm. So that's that.
And let's say scouting ahead, who's going to be the successor to Fatih Terim? Özer just said Okan Buruk could be a candidate in the future. Did he impress you in this match tactically? Did you think that he made the right decisions going for a more defensive lineup? Do you think that the ultimate victory is thanks to his tactical input, or is it more a little bit of chance?
Yeah, it could be both. But you know, football's a double-sided sword. Like if you make the mistake, you're gonna concede. And in fact, the mistake came from our Lemina at the time, who was playing really well actually, but taking a little bit of risks down there in the defensive sides. And as we were building up the attack, he lost the ball and he just rushed into the opponent there, like trying to make up his mistake. But as Fatih said during the press conference, like you shouldn't be like rushing into the opponent like that, and you should be like patient. If you lose the ball, that's okay. You should be like protecting your position there, and so you don't give any gaps or free space to your opponents afterwards. But you just get too like not composed enough for it. So rushed into Irfan Can, and Irfan Can is a quality foot, and he just passed him and made the assist great. So what Okan Buruk is after was just he was patient. The lineup he brought down the field was showing it. He just played patient and got the goal because I think that was a kind of match for doing that purpose.
And Yakup, let's look at Ryan Babel for a second. When we see him play for the Netherlands in the last, I think he's been with the national team again for like 1.5 years now, and he's being played very frequently as a striker for the Netherlands. Why does Ryan Babel function as a striker for Holland, but can't seem to carry that same load for Galatasaray. What do you think is the main difference?
I mean, the really easy answer is that the Dutch national team is much, much better than the current Galatasaray team. The team has a lot of passing players. They get in a lot of positions, and they have a lot of pacey wingers. So he gets a lot of balls. So he has it easy with the Dutch national team because he can rely on other players to take the heat off of him. When you have a Depay, when you have with Frankie de Jong, you just seem to forget about the player called Babel. He seems to disappear into the crowd when he plays with the Dutch team. So the pressure probably on him with the Dutch team is much lower because a lot of fans don't really think too much of him. They do like him. It kind of surprises me that the Dutch crowd really likes him, but they don't have a lot of pressure on him per se, because there are a lot of young players that are just waiting to be put in the squad. So I think that with the intense pressure that Galatasaray is having now with the bad results, with all the injuries, Falcao's situation pretty much hanging over them as a super dark cloud. I think pretty much every player is really tense at the moment, and I think that backfires on a player like Babel, even though he should be pretty easy in those situations because he has had a long career and played for really big teams. But I think that's one of the problems. Maybe the pressure that is put on them by the fans, by the media a little bit. And I think just it's a little bit harder to play as a striker for Galatasaray than it is for the Dutch national team.
And what I'm gathering from that is maybe, and I recognize it too from his time in Besiktas, is that Babel's a very useful player when there's quality around him, when he's not the guy that people are looking to make the difference. He will make the difference when he's part of a machine, so to speak, when he's a well-oiled cog in said machine. But I think at Galatasaray right now, because there's maybe a little bit of a lack of creativity, because there's a lack of good football, as Özer said, and there's too much being expected from individuals, perhaps maybe a Babel to drag them over the finish line like other players have done in the last couple of years with Gomis, Onyekuru, Snyder in the past, guys who could, with individual quality, could bang out, find that goal, make the difference even when they were playing bad. Babel has actually scored quite a few goals already for Galatasaray this season, but maybe a little bit too much responsibility is being put on his shoulders, with the creative outlets of the team being predominantly, I would say, him, Feghouli, and Belhanda, and I think he and Belhanda aren't particularly creative players necessarily.
I mean, in my opinion, I just think that Galatasaray does have a lot of talented players, but I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know if it's just if something is wrong. They are all really talented, but in my opinion, the only player that I do really like at Galatasaray at the moment is Feghouli. Mm-hmm. It seems to be the only player that really can do what he wants to do, and the other players, it seems like they don't have the confidence when they are on the ball, and you can see them just hoping that they get a goal, because then a little bit of the pressure will be lifted off their shoulders. And with big games like the game against Basaksehir, and next week they're going to play against Trabzonpor, I just see him going on a downward spiral.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I agree with that analysis as well. I mean, I can't see anything picking up anytime soon, unless there is a really positive result in the Champions League midweek. Mm-hmm. Then I think the immediate future is looking pretty bleak for Ghana. We've got a pretty tough run of fixtures in the run up to Christmas, including, of course, the trip to Paris. And to your further point about the individuals, I think Terim has historically always relied on individual brilliance to win games, and much more so than any sort of tactical or system that he puts into place that's kind of runs on any fluidity. So I think the problem is, now that we have these, for some reason, unmotivated or in some cases crap individuals, then we're just not getting the results.
Okay, well, we've spoken quite a bit about Galatasaray here. Quickly on Basaksehir, guys, they continue to impress. They had a very bad start to the season. Okan Buruk managed to get the train back on track, and they haven't really looked back ever since. They've gone on a really good run. They're one of the more informed teams in the league. We kind of counted them out of the title picture in the beginning of the season after 5-6 games or so. But I guess we'll have to revisit that opinion because they are looking like one of the maybe 3 most formidable sides in the league right now. Do you think they can keep it up? Yakup, you as Trabzonspor fan, they're one of your main competitors, I'd say, right now. What do you think?
I mean, it was. I think we talked about it like in the beginning of the season. The quality at Basaksehir was always there. You know, they didn't lose a lot of players, and the quality was always there. I think it was just in the beginning. It was a little bit of time for Okan Buruk to try and figure it out all the way. You know, they have been playing really well. I really like that they are like the only team in Europe to have a win and actually do well.
Yeah,
and two even. And I can see this going on. I think that the lack of pressure at Basaksehir is the reason why the players seem to thrive. You know, they don't really have a lot of pressure on them, so they can, even if they have a bad game or two, they can just shrug it up and keep on playing. But I think that the most important thing that could decide how this season will end for them is if Okan Buruk is going to leave. You know, you talked about a little bit that maybe he might go to Galatasaray if Fatih Terim is gone. I think that they still could get, you know, a pretty decent trainer instead of him. You know, but with the winter break, I don't know if a trainer change is a good decision if it happens, and how that would. I think it might impact the team in a negative way. But if Okan Buruk doesn't go, barring, you know, big injuries or something, I can't see them, you know, dropping off of the title race.
Okay, let's move on to Saturday with Denizlispor Rizespor. Denizlispor beating Caykur Rizespor here in the last couple of minutes of the match because there's 2 goals in this game. The match ended 2-0, but the first goal of the match didn't fall until the 86th minute from Oscar Estupinian on a corner kick for Denizlispor, and then in the 2nd minute of stoppage time, Radoslav Muravski converted a penalty, and 3 golden points for Denizlispor, who of course came out of their loss to Besiktas last week. Denizlispor pick up 3 valuable points. Umut, what were the highlights of this match for you?
Well, there's 2 penalty calls, which the first was overruled and taken away by VAR decision, as the ball bounced, kicked into the player's arm, but defender was too close, so I think Halil Umut Meler was the referee, so he decided to just turn it away and let the play go on after the VAR decision. And I think it's because too close that he didn't have the chance to take his arm away. So and
that was for Rizespor, just for the record.
Yeah, that was for Rizespor. And Ismail Kartal started the game by benching his best player, who is Morozyuk, these times, but he just put a center midfielder, Abdullah Durak, there at the start of the game. I don't understand why. And most of the Denizlispor attacks came from that side to the Rizespor goal. And after seeing that kind of chance, Denizlispor manager decided to put on Barrow, who is a really fast and pacey winger, decided to use it. And at the time of that, Ismail Kartal decided to put Morozyuk there. But even though Morozyuk is a good player technically and ability-wise, he doesn't have the fast running speed to catch a player like Barrow. Yeah, the pace, Barrow. And so he's too fast, and he gets into the positions and Rizespor players having hard time like catching it, and the second penalty call came out that way. Like Barrow ran past Rizespor backs Melniak, and he decided to cross it, and the ball bounced in front of the box, and the referee just started the game and looked back at the VAR review. The ball just hit the arm of the sliding player there. I think it's a rough goal because it's a sliding play. He doesn't have anywhere other to put the arm. He's already in a awkward shape. So also the other player. There were two sliding players at the time, so other player was just behind him. Like if his arm wasn't there, he was already gonna hit the other player with his leg. So I think this penalty goal was a harsh decision, but the goal came in as well, and the game ended 2-0.
Yeah, I felt it was kind of a flattering win, maybe. Although I do agree, Barrow definitely was the man that caused a lot of issues for Rize, for Denizlispor against Rize, of course. Guys, what did you think of that penalty? What do you think of a sliding tackle where the ball accidentally hits the arm? When if it's a shot at goal, we know the rules now. It has to go to the penalty spot, but this did seem a little harsh. I don't think they gained any advantage of that, and I know that's not part of the rule, but I always kind of feel like that should go and factor into the interpretation of the referee, whether the attacking team or the defensive team rather actually gains an advantage by an accidental handball or not. Yakup, what did you think of this position?
I haven't seen the position, so just give me a second and just get to Özer. Just give me a second.
Özer, what did you think of it?
Özer?
The slide, the penalty for Denizlispor. Did you catch that?
Well, no, I didn't catch it. I'm afraid I was delinquent on that one for my homework.
The thing is,
okay, I got it.
Also, even the Rizespor players and the Denizlispor players, none of them were just arguing for the penalty. They haven't realized it's been hit to the hand.
Yeah.
I mean, just taking a quick look. I think it was a penalty because I kind of get both sides. I get that you can't slide for a ball like that without getting your arms on the pitch, but on the other side, he does block off a big portion of the ball.
Yeah, but there's another player just behind of him. Like if the ball doesn't hit his arm, it's gonna already hit to the other player.
Yeah, you're right. So I actually think the penalty was given, so I think that I can get why that is given. But if it wasn't given, I also would understand why it wasn't given, to say so. Because it's a bit difficult. It's really quick. It's really a fast ball. And I don't know. It's a hard decision for. I think decisions like these are why some of the referees are scared to do something. And now that we have VAR, just depend on VAR. And I don't think there's one clear decision for positions like this.
I think it's a letter of the law. You have to probably point to the spot, but it's a harsh penalty. It doesn't feel 100% right.
Some of the refs should go on their common senses,
Yeah, but I think if they make a wrong decision where let's say that the referee commission says, look,
no, because you can just he also canceled the first one,
Yeah, but the first one, I think that was correct to cancel, if I'm honest. I mean, that was very short. That was ball to hand, I think. I don't know. I think that referees maybe are also... we've seen this, lots of the referees getting their licenses revoked after making mistakes. I think refs are maybe a little bit... afraid to make mistakes and maybe are therefore being a little bit over anal in certain positions like this, for example, maybe. But a great win for Denizlispor. Both teams remain in the belly of the league table with 14 points apiece. They're kind of having very similar seasons, I feel like, where I don't really know what to expect from either team, if I'm quite honest. Like, one week, Rize get a really good win, and then the next week they just lose without a chance, it seems like. Same thing really with Denizlispor. Like, they have their good games, but then they have, like, serious down periods too. Like, they're very fluctuating in terms of form, both of them really. I really don't know what to expect of them, either of them. I could see them by the end of the season, both of these teams being involved in the relegation battle, but at the same time they could end in the left column because they're just so unpredictable right now, it feels like. Let's move over to the next match. That's Ankaragücü Trabzonspor. On paper, perhaps the weakest team of the league, Ankaragücü. I think they have had a good season so far, given their circumstances. But they should be not too much of a challenge for Trabzonspor heading into this match. That's the mindset I think most people had, and that turned out to be right, as Trabzonspor made quick work of Ankaragücü, beating them 3-0 in Ankara. The first goal coming from Alexander Sørloth in the 5th minute, and then a red card for Ricardo Fati, 2 yellows in the span of 3 minutes in the 43rd and the first minute of first half stoppage time. He got sent off, and that resulted in a little bit of an escalating scoreline as soon as the ball got rolling again in the second half, because Yusuf Sarı made it 2-0 from the edge of the area. Really nice goal from the youngster. And then Anthony Nwakaeme made it 3-0 in the 56th minute. So within the hour, it was already 3-0, and the 3 points were in the bag for Trabzonspor. Yakup, I know you were once again at work. You seem to do this on purpose, but I'm sure you've watched it back since. And what did you think of your Trabzonspor's performance in Ankara?
Yeah, I unfortunately was working, but I did try to follow the game, even though I couldn't watch the game. I'm happy for the result. I'm really happy because even though, as you said, on paper, Ankaragücü is one of the lesser teams in the league. I know from experience that Trabzonspor generally has a problem with teams like this because I think they get a little bit too overconfident, and that backfires like massively. I remember the game this season we had against Caykur Rizespor that we won 2-1, I guess, if I remember correctly, and I think that this was a game like that. It was like a game that we needed to win, and the team really performs well. I'm really happy that it looks like some of the injured players are starting to come back, like, slowly. It was nice to see Obi Mikel again on the pitch. He's a really nice player. He had the first couple of games that he played was really awful, and I'm so happy that he seems to have found his form again. On the other side, that this game, Karaman tried Hosseini at midfield. I didn't hear any bad things about him. Generally, Hosseini is really liked in the Trabzonspor fan base. So him playing out of position and still not getting a lot of lack over him. I'm really happy for him because he's one of my favorite players on the team, and it's nice to see the team perform really well. As for the game in general, I'm happy that Hussein played a great game. Hussein is, as we talked about a little bit, he has the potential to be a good player. He in my opinion is a good player, but he could be a great player, bar some of his mistakes that he makes some of the times. He had a crucial interception in this game against, I think, Orgil, and the team is really doing well. I'm happy to see Sosa back on the pitch. Sørloth is back on the scoreboard with a really great goal. Got the ball on like the half of the pitch and just ran his ass off. It's really amazing to see a guy of his length, move as
this
quickly
misleading
as he can.
speed that you have referred to in the past.
Yeah. So I'm really happy with him. You also know that I wasn't like the biggest fan of Yusuf Sarı because he seems like a one-dimensional player. But this game, he really showed that he can play high-quality football. So I think I spoke a little bit too soon. I hope it was just the jitters of the first couple of matches, playing for a big team as Trabzonspor, and that he seems to have found his regular form. As for the penalty,
Was it just a quick question? Was it Yusuf on at some point? I think it was at 1-0 in the first half. One of the Trabzonpor's players broke through on the left, and then he like flicked it into the near post where Surlov almost got to it. Was that Yusuf as well?
I don't know for sure. I think it was.
I think it was too, and I really liked the little flick pass that he gave. And I've seen, I don't remember which game it was, like I think 1 or 2 games ago, where he really impressed me. Like his crossing, he's not just blindly crossing it. You know, he's not just Roberto Hilbert running down to the touchline and then trying to just ram it into the box and hope somebody runs against it. I feel like he keeps the overview pretty well. I think he's I don't know. I really see something in him. I don't think he's just a Yusuf Erdogan, like a little bit of a headless chicken dribbler. I think he's a different type of player that has a little bit more to him, a little bit of intelligence. And I could see him amounting to something, if I'm quite honest. But of course, like you say, he's young, still a ways to go. But I like what I'm seeing from him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, after we had, like, I won't call it a discussion. We talked about it, you and I, and we were on different sides of the argument. You know, you liked him, I didn't. And since then, I tried to look a little bit more at him when he's playing, and he seems to do really well.
He makes good runs intelligently.
Yeah, he's a tiny player. He's a little bit too easily shoved off the ball, but you know that is something that can be worked on, you know, with a little bit of more weight training. Otherwise, he really tries his best. He's like much better than Avdija. I still think that Avdija can be useful. But,
I like him too. Maybe not for Trabzonspor though, but I don't think he's a Trabzonspor level player. But I think he could be really good for an Ankaragücü or something. You know?
I mean, I think we have a lot of pacey players on the wing. You know, with Ekuban returning. With Abdulkadir being like 2 or 3 months away, there is going to be a big fight for the positions, you know, for the left winger and right winger. So it can only be good to have too many players that can be pacey and get the ball into the forwards, you know. As for the game, the decision that was talked about a lot in this game on Twitter, I've seen a couple of Trabzonspor fan sites talk about it, was the penalty. I think Cüneyt Çakır made the right decision. It didn't look like it hit his arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like it hit his chest. So it is what it is.
I didn't think that was a penalty.
No, I don't think it was a penalty. As for like one of the biggest things in the game was the red card for Fatih. I thought it was really a dumb decision of him. You know, two quick yellow cards, and they were both, in my opinion, correct yellow cards. There was no need to do it, and he pretty much fucked the team over, and that led to Trabzonspor barging over them. You know, at the end of the first half, giving away a man that just isn't a good thing to do.
Yeah, I didn't think Ankaragücü were too bad in the first half. They had some opportunities. In fact, Trabzonspor were playing mainly counter football in the first half. And I think Ankaragücü had a decent... of course, I mean, conceding that early goal put a little bit of a stick in their wheels, but I think they played a decent first half. But as soon as they gave up that man, you just knew that Trabzonspor had this in the bag.
I mean, generally... Karaman doesn't start the game with a lot of pressing. I remember us doing it against Galatasaray, like I don't know if it was last year or this year. Because it doesn't really work. You know, we have some shoddy defenders sometimes, and it might lead to a quick goal. So like the last half year, we start the game pretty passive. You know, we let the opponent come to us if we're playing away, and if we're playing at home, we're just trying to be slow and methodical, you know. Mm-hmm. So if you play this kind of football against a team that is like in the bottom three of the table, you seem to kind of get overrun a bit because they're really trying their ass off to get out of the relegation zone, and then you could see that in this game. You know, Ankaragücü tried their best, but after a while, when the team is starting to get into their natural positions, the game starts to flow for Trabzonspor, and you can see that because all the midfield starts to regain the control of the ball, and after that it's just get it to the wingers and just attack, and it works with Trabzonspor a lot. Lastly, I don't want to ramble on too long for this game. There was one position with Yusuf Sarı where he got the ball like on the midfield line, and he dribbled the ball like 45-50 meters, and Sørloth made like cutting run to the other side. I thought that could result in a goal. I really would have loved that, but you can say that because it was a pretty long run and it was like I think the 70th minute. You can kind of excuse it, but those kind of positions should go in. Otherwise, not a lot to say, to be honest. I'm happy to see that we won a game. Before the big game against Galatasaray, we do need a win. To keep the moral high. All the injured players seem to return. There's a little bit of talk saying that Ekuban might play next week. I don't know if he will start. He'll probably start on the bench, but we got the 3 points. I'm happy with it. I hope that we can extend this winning streak next week.
Okay, let's move over to the final match on Saturday. That was Konyaspor Besiktas. And the biggest talking point I think we're going to have in this match is the disallowed goal for Konyaspor, which came after just like a minute or so into the match. I couldn't believe it when I was watching. I was like, going into the match with a good feeling. Besiktas with a decent form recently. All injured players returned. And a strong-looking lineup. And I know traditionally Konya is a very difficult away game for us. We haven't won there since 2014. So, it's one of those matches where you just need to make sure you don't concede a stupid goal or something. And after just a couple of seconds into the match, like 60 seconds or so into it, I don't remember exactly, it was 1-0 already. I was like, oh my, I was swearing, I was fuming. And then I saw the replay and I was like, wait a second. That guy's like blocking Karius' view. He can't see shit. And Karius immediately appealed to the ref. But I honestly, I didn't think it was going to go to VAR or anything. But it then ended up going to VAR and got overruled. Now, Konyaspor were really upset about this after the match. This was also enticed a little bit by the likes of Erman Toroğlu saying that it should not have been disallowed. So I'm going to throw it to you guys. What did you think of the disallowed goal from Konyaspor for Ömer Ali Şahinler in the first minute or two of the match before we delve into the match further? Umut, what did you think of the disallowed goal since we don't have Burak here?
Yeah, I think the same way as Erman Toroğlu, as you mentioned, because I think Ömer Ali passes like really fast in front of him, like and a good keeper and as you're concentrated on the ball and you don't lose the view of it, like you don't lose the sight of it because he just passes like it's a split second thing and he's not standing there, he's just passing there. So I don't think it's quite right thing to cancel that goal.
Yakup, what did you think?
I thought it was a correct decision because I only saw the position on Twitter and they only used the sideline camera. But when you see it on the natural way the game was played, I don't think it should have been disallowed.
What did you think, Özer?
Yeah, you can pass on me because I haven't seen the incident.
No worries. Well, obviously, I thought it was the correct decision. No, but it's a difficult one. But I really do think it does. I agree with what you're saying, Umut, that of course the goalkeeper is keeping his eye on the ball, but it doesn't mean that the player walking in his field of vision isn't the distracting factor. And if you look at what Karius does when Ömer shoots, I feel like he's kind of flinching, like he's expecting a cross into the guy that's in front of him because he's not making a proper attempt at saving it.
No, you don't make up theories like that because you should have to talk about what actually happened in fact because
yeah, but that's what happened.
There's a record like where it shows just behind of the camera from Loris Karius. So
yeah.
You can see that he doesn't actually lose the sight of the ball, but after he concedes it, he just rushes into Fırat Aydınus, is it? Fred Aydınus. So like expects disallowance of the goal. Just
Yeah,
saying
exactly. But that means that he was that the
think
player
it's,
clearly had an impact on him because he immediately went for it. It wasn't just something that it took him a
immediately
couple of
went for it
seconds.
because he
Yeah.
conceded a goal.
Yeah, you can see it. You can look at it like that, of course. But I don't know, man. That guy is way offside. He's like 2 meters offside. He's standing there.
He
He's
is.
he's in the field of vision of the goalkeeper. It's
Actually, not during the kick. Just he's getting into the view just before he kicks it. But during the kick happens, he just already passed by.
yeah, but as a goalkeeper, you're expecting then the cross to come in for the easy tap in, right? That's the natural inclination you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that player is in your head. So it does have a distracting factor. But yeah, I think we definitely definitely got a favorable call there. I'm not saying it's wrong. I think it's understandable. But I didn't think we were gonna get it. But it ended up paying off in dividends because in the 72nd minute, Burak Yilmaz managed to score a goal to put Besiktas in front. And honestly, I thought defensively, Besiktas put in a really good performance. I was really impressed by the back line. Vida and Ruiz were great again. Vida has been tremendous. Ever since that red card against Gaziantep, he has just been on fire, playing a fantastic season so far. He's just so good. And defensively, I thought Besiktas were really solid in this match. They really didn't give Konyaspor a lot of opportunities. There was one, I think, shot in the first half. I don't know if it was Faruk Mia or something off a corner where Karius made a good save. But apart from that, Karius barely tested in this match. There was another shot in the second half. I think after Besiktas had already scored, where Mia took a shot from outside the box and hit the outside of the post. But all in all, defensively, I was really impressed again with Besiktas, who have only conceded once in 6 games. But that's probably where my positivity kind of ends, because offensively, I didn't really like Besiktas. I didn't like the lineup. Abdullah Avcı seems to have found his Quaresma in Caner Erkin, because Caner apparently has to start. Reboccio has won his spot at left back, it feels like, and I think deservedly so. He has been impressive at left back. He's a good defender, contributes offensively too. He's just a better all-round left back than Caner, so it's logical that he starts, and that's positive to see that Abdullah Avcı is at least not letting his bias come into play there and does play Reboccio. But then he insists on starting Caner regardless on the wing, and I feel like he just contributes so little. I know he gets the assist here on Burak, but it was kind of a little bit of a fortunate assist just because Burak does really well with his turn to set himself up in front of goal. I think that was 90% on Burak, that goal. Really, the assist didn't play a massive part there. And just feel like Caner's kind of weighing it down a little bit there when he's starting on the wing. I like him as a left back because offensively he gets more room then, and then he's able to swing in those crosses. But when he's starting on the wing, I'm just not a fan of him because he's not able to make that necessary space to find his cross when he's marked more tightly. He doesn't have the attacking instincts to make good runs when Besiktas are, for example, having a counter opportunity or something. So for about an hour or so, I really didn't like the offensive or a little bit more the offensive play of Besiktas. But Nkudu came in. He immediately added something. You could immediately sense that he just adds a lot of danger. I think that Yakup mentioned as well that he really likes Nkudu. But yeah, brilliant Burak Yilmaz goal that I didn't feel was going to come. I even told my friends, like, I just can't see Burak score here. He's been struggling for form this season due to the injuries and stuff, but I really couldn't see him score that type of a goal in this match. And then he ended up doing it, and I was happy to be wrong, but I didn't have a positive feeling in regards to us getting a goal, so to speak. But then we ended up doing so with that Burak goal, and Besiktas really didn't come in any trouble anymore after that. I think the Faruk Mia shot wasn't all that dangerous in hindsight, and in particular I was impressed by the added time performance, where you always get that one ball that falls right still, and where you just know that team that's trailing is going to get one half opportunity that may actually end up being a good one, and it just didn't happen here, which I was kind of surprised by. But Besiktas lucky with that early disallowed goal, but in general a very strong defensive performance, I felt like, and maybe hopefully for them Burak Yilmaz can start scoring some goals now, and this gives him the confidence boost he needs. Yakup, quickly, you were very positive about Nkudu. What is it exactly you like about him?
I mean, you can see that quality-wise, he's like a step above of the Turkish league wingers, like the Turkish players in general, and like he's one of the only guys that dribbles for a reason. I think a lot of pacey wingers just dribble because they are really fast and they can just just kick the ball forward and just ram past the guy that's defending him. But you can see with Nkudu, he has the vision to look up, look at his surroundings, know the players that are around him. Use his pace, use his dribbling ability to actually do something instead of just mindlessly running across the left side or right side, or which side he's playing on. As I said to you, I really like him. I think it's a little bad for him that he has a striker like Burak to go to, because as we also talked, Burak is his condition isn't the best anymore. He when he tries, he had like 3 or 4 good sprints in him every game. But I think that if you have a pacey winger like that, you need a more a faster forward would be really good. You would rack up the assists.
Someone who can keep up with him when he's running down the wing, basically.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think that if either Sorloth or Mario Gomez back in the day, even though he wasn't like the fastest guy alive, and Kudu
he was pretty fast for a big guy.
Yeah,
but Burak is a lot faster, I think. But I know what you mean. Like he wastes a lot of energy when he does those sprints.
Yeah, and I think that if he had like a pacey long forward to pass to and to give crosses to, he would have had like maybe 7 or 8 assists now.
Maybe. The impression I have from Nkudu is kind of the first description you gave. Like he's really fast. Good dribbler too, but I don't always see. I don't know. I don't know if he envisions the end. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of feel like he's a little bit of a headless chicken, but he does have something. He is able of creating danger even when he's not really having a proper idea. So I don't know. Maybe I hope your vision is right and mine's wrong. But well, the jury is still out on him. I feel like he also missed some games due to injury, but it can definitely be seen that from what Besiktas have available right now on the wings, with Tyler Boyd not really getting chances, if I'm quite honest, and Diaby, who really isn't a winger, and then Janer. Then obviously Nkudu is a step above those guys at least. But let's move over to Sunday then with Caykur Rizespor, Sivasspor, the leaders in the league. Sivasspor getting another victory here, 1-4 in Kayseri, a big win. Fernando scoring the opening goal here for Sivasspor in the 24th minute after he had already had a couple of good opportunities. He made some good runs. He was quite impressive. But then in the 44th minute, against the run of play, Caykur Rizespor get the equalizer through Pedro Henrique, who I honestly thought was going to get sent off again. If you saw his reaction when he got booked later in the second half, and he just kept going, I felt like he was going to get a second yellow again. That wouldn't be the first time this season. But Emre Kılınç put the visitors back ahead in the 70th minute with a nice shot from the edge of the area, following a corner kick, slotting it in the bottom right corner. Then Erdoğan Yeşilyurt made it 1-3 and 1-4 in the 74th and the 4th minute of stoppage time, respectively, to escalate the scoreline a little bit and make it a big win for Sivasspor. Özer, you took a look at this match for us. Sivasspor continued to impress, and they were kind of under all of our radars a couple of weeks ago because we were all kind of focusing on Alanyaspor. But here, Sivasspor are suddenly the lone leaders in the league with 24 points, 2 points ahead of Trabzonspor. What do you think of this team?
Yeah, exactly, and they're good value for their lead at the top as well. I mean, this game finished 4-1, but it could easily have been 7 or 8-1. I mean, Kayseri looked very poor. They were able to equalise in the first half, but really that was against the run of play. Sivas had so many chances that they weren't able to convert. You mentioned Fernando, so he had a pretty classy goal that he scored to put Sivas 1-0 up. But just before then, it was quite a funny moment where he was kind of received the ball and then almost hit in front of the goalkeeper, did some kind of keepy-uppies, turned around once, then did a 180, turned around again over the goalkeeper, then did a bicycle kick, and just able to find the back of the net. But unfortunately, he was just offside. Otherwise, that would have been pretty awesome.
That would have been
spectacular.
Goal.
Yeah. So I do urge the listeners to go and check that out because it's quite a humorous moment in the game. Fernando really did impress me, though. He's the 26-year-old, and he's actually on loan from Porto. So it's a good scouting achievement from the part of Sivas. And actually, Emre Kılınç, who scored but also hit the post. Then you had Erdoğan as well, who scored. And he was one of the guys who was just part of this relentless attack for Sivasspor in this game. And yeah, you're right. They have kind of been slipping under the radar. And it's kind of the resurgence in the last few weeks that's really got people talking. But credit to Umut, actually, because he highlighted Sivas's kind of Turkish core in the episode a couple of weeks ago. So if we take a look at that, Emre Kılınç is 25, Erdoğan 26, Mert Hakan as well, who I believe is also 25.
Yeah.
These guys are essential parts of the Sivasspor attack line in the midfield. So as well as them, when you've got guys like Fernando, who's 26 and wants to prove himself, they make for quite an interesting squad. Even the likes of Aruna Kona, who, admittedly, he's about 35, 36 now. He's on the bench, but you've got kind of an experienced head in the squad as well. So in terms of balance, yeah, exactly. They seem to have got the balance pretty well so far. So I think that they have every right to be top of the league. It's not like that any of the other teams are really firing on all cylinders anyway. So credit to them. Let's see how far they go and keep an eye on the 3 Turkish dynamos in midfield.
Yeah, and you mentioned 2 of those guys, I believe, are both on expiring contracts. Emre Kılınç and Mert Hakan Yandaş have both opted not to extend their deals at Sivasspor. They're probably eyeing a big move in the summer, but they could potentially already be out in January because they only have 6 months left on their contracts and they would be leaving on a free in the summer. If Sivasspor still wants to get any cash for them, they'll have to do so by selling these guys in January. I could see both of those guys making a Galatasaray, a Besiktas, a Fenerbahçe, a Trabzonspor happy. I think Emre Kılınç has been linked repeatedly with Besiktas over the last year or so. In the summer, in fact, Sivas were still demanding 3 million for him. I know Mert Hakan Yandaş is a Galatasaray fan. So interesting to see. They're top of the table right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if 2 of their best players would actually end up leaving in January to one of the bigger clubs, just because Sivasspor would still want to get a little bit of a return on their investment on those guys. Do you think that Mert Hakan Yandaş and Emre Kılınç would find their ways in the squads of your respective teams? Yakup, let's start.
I think Galatasaray can take anyone that's fit right now.
Well, yeah, Emre is a left winger. That could definitely be useful. I don't know. What do you think, Yakup? Do you see those guys fitting in at Trabzon, and would you like Trabzon to go after either of them?
I mean, I would like both of them, but Emre Kılınç is a really good player, but we are so stacked on the midfield division. Yeah, so I don't know if he would be a smart one. As for who were you talking about again?
Mert Hakan Yandaş.
Sorry?
Mert Hakan Yandaş.
Mert, I don't know. He's I like young players. They're both like 25, so you can't really call them young. But I don't know. I have a feeling that they might extend their contract so Sivas can get a big fee for them in the summer. And if that doesn't happen, I think that Galatasaray is pretty much going to open the bank for both players, And salary-wise, I don't think that any other team in Turkey can, compare with them.
Yeah, I think Mert Hakan has been standing out a lot this season, but the thing with Emre Kılınç is he's kind of been one of their better players for a couple of years right now. He's been consistent, I feel like. And Mert Hakan, for me, I don't remember him that vividly from, for example, even last season. Like, he really arrived on the scene this season as far as I can recall. But Emre is someone we've been talking about for a couple of years now as a interesting player. Yeah, Umut, you're somebody who keeps your finger on the pulse pretty well. Mert Hakan, when did he first spark your interest?
Well, after the time Robinho went away to Basaksehir, these young guys...
so last January.
Last January. So these young guys, not so young, but you can see them, they are like in their... prime, you can call that, but not so prime when you see the Turkish prime is like around 28, 29. Mm-hmm. So I think they have a way to go as well. But when they were having these guys like Robinho and the other, I don't recall the name. There was another foreign player who was blocking the path of these players. And also,
blocking the path.
Blocking the path of these players from performing. So, because of the yabancı sınırı, the foreign rule, some of the president's boards just abuse it and buy too many foreign players.
Umut, you're starting to sound like a pro yabancı rule here.
No. I'm just telling that. They just abuse the rules, so they just forget about their raw talents, local talents, yearly talents, and because of that, they have their way blocked. The chance they have becomes lower and lower. But as soon as Robinho left, you can see Mert Hakan Yandaş and Erdoğan Yeşilyurt finding chances after a while. And also they have a great harmony with the team leader now. I can call Emre Kılınç. He's the mastermind of the team right now, the carrier. So I can say he and the others yerli players got a great harmony in Sivasspor, and that's the reason I think they are the leaders right now.
But what we also, just to piggyback on your point of the foreign limit, and yes, this is definitely true that some clubs attract too many foreigners, perhaps, and it does stand in the way of young Turkish players. But then I think you see the cream rises to the top, where we see an Emre Akbaba at Alanyaspor, an Emre Kılınç at Sivasspor. These, early 20s, mid 20s Turkish players that are actually willing and capable of working hard to earn their spot in the team, whereas in the past we got other players who maybe were talented, but they never really had to give it 100% because they were gonna play anyway. And now guys like this, like Mert Hakan, like Emre Kılınç, like Emre Akbaba in the past, they know if they have a good work ethic with their capabilities, they're gonna be able to get to where they want to be in life. But beforehand, when we had guys like Batuhan in the past, and they have all the talent in the world, but they just don't really care enough to give it 100% in training, to be maximum, to, like Deadpool would say, maximum effort. They lack that, and I think that's a positive effect of the lack of a foreign limit now, where we see these guys like Emre Kılınç, getting to where they are in life because of the foreign limit, or lack thereof, because they have to work harder.
I just looked it up, and so I can say the last year their squad involves players like Syriac, Thierry Bifuma, Robinho, and Aruna Konya. So up top is like a African combo mix. So it's like, I know these players doesn't promise too much, and I think they're just in for money. So they also had Gabriel Torje, and one thing conflict to what I said earlier. They had Özer Hurmacı, who is a local Turkish player, but he doesn't promise anything at all.
He's a little bit over the hill at this point.
Yeah, over the hill. Yeah, so yeah.
Not that old though. I think he must be like 30 only, but
yeah, but he's done.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. The previous league leaders, Alanyaspor, who have kind of been stumbling as of late, they faced off with Göztepe, and they ended up losing once again at home this time to Göztepe 1-0. The only goal from the match here coming in the 68th minute through Ande Castro, a really nice taken goal, a very good quality goal. But Alanyaspor losing again. Umut, how do you credit that to? How can you explain Alanyaspor's slip as of late? Because they are one of the teams that have been playing the best football in the league, and honestly, even here, I didn't feel like they deserved to lose really. But what's their problem right now?
Yeah, I think as a matter of fact, the thing is when you're the leaders, as you said earlier. All the headlights, all the lights are on you. So the people are trying to analyze you, and also your opponents take precautions to you as well. So before that, they just acted like Alanya as a regular team. So they didn't have any precautions to them, like not as they had right now, but. After that, having the leadership and all, some of their opponents acted more cautious against them, playing against them. So I think that might be a few reasons about it, and also the other reason can be that they might have lost their run streak. So. That can happen throughout the season sometimes on a team, but they can also rise up again because they have a great squad and great players who had their harmony. And I also didn't see the winger who is the Latin American, forget his name.
Fernandez.
Yeah, they didn't have him during
I think he was suspended, wasn't he?
Yeah, they didn't have it, so I think they kind of lacked his creativity and the pace he has and the dictatorship in the field, causing trouble for their opponents. So also there has a main problem that they have a great player called Basaksehir, who is a Greek player and has a great left foot. But after seeing him play, you see he's very reliant on his left foot, like Podolski and his prime. So if you take some precautions to his left foot and force him to shoot or pass with his right foot, he suddenly becomes like half the player he is. So he becomes less dangerous as he is. So I think that might be quite the reasons.
And Cisse, of course, still getting in those positions, but this time not converting. And we've said it before. I mean, he was scoring. I think he had like 9 goals in 9 games or something. He's still on 9 goals right now, I believe. But he could have probably been on like 13, 14, 15 goals at that point already. And again here, he got in a couple of positions, but just couldn't put it away. Maybe just a little bit of lack of luck for Alanyaspor right now. I do still feel like they're playing good football, though. So, like you said, it could turn quickly. But it's a super tight race right now at the top of the table. I don't dare to say what the top 5 is going to look like at the end of the season. There's so many candidates right now, from first place to like 9th or 8th place. I think anyone could probably end in the top 5 at the moment, or even top 3. It's crazy. Let's move over to Malatyaspor Fenerbahçe, because that's a very interesting match as well between two teams of the top 5. Malatyaspor under Sergen Yalçın having a great run. Fenerbahçe under Ersun Yanal having a great run this season too. Although they've had some hiccups along the way, and just like Galatasaray, they have some injury issues right now, especially up top, with Vedat Muric returning injured from the international break, supposedly according to Ridvan Dilman, who claims to have spoken to Vedat on the phone over the week. He told him that he would be out for 5 weeks, supposedly. That would be a pretty big blow for Fenerbahce, because I do believe they have the derby with Besiktas coming up in the next couple of weeks. That would fall under those 5 weeks, I believe. And they still have Alanyaspor, if I'm not mistaken. So they still have a couple of tests ahead of them in those 5 weeks. So this match ending in a 0-0 draw, but it could have been different. Fenerbahce had a penalty awarded to them towards the end of the first half. But Famol saved it, or rather Emre Belözoğlu missed it. I don't know how you want to look at it, but they didn't convert. And a big controversial decision in this match as well is the disallowed goal for Malatyaspor in the first half. I don't have the timestamp of that here right now. I think it was a little bit over the half-hour mark or so. But a goal from Mina that got disallowed for a supposed fall on the goalkeeper, Altay. And I know Burak isn't here, but he feels, because we argued about it last night, and Burak is of the opinion that it was a very clear fall on the goalkeeper, that Altay got sandwiched in between the two players of Malatyaspor, Yahovic, and I don't know who the other guy was. I think it was Bifuma, maybe.
Abek.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so Burak's opinion is clear fall on the goalkeeper. He got sandwiched. Blah blah blah. I did also show this position to a couple of my friends. I showed it in a group with lots of journalists, and the guys who bothered to respond all said the same thing. It's goalkeeping blunder. This is a legit goal. Let's talk about that first, guys. What you feel like. Özer, did you manage to see the position, the disallowed goal?
I did. I saw it in different positions, different speeds, different lighting, different screens. And to be honest with you, I am actually on the side of Burak on this. I think Altay is somewhat sandwiched. It's not 100% infringement on the goalkeeper, I think, but there's enough of a sandwiching there to make you question whether or not the two players were going for the ball or actually going for the goalkeeper directly. So,
but I think you can see that both players are watching the ball. They have no clue of the whereabouts of the goalkeeper.
The body language is more engaged with putting the goalkeeper off balance. So I think rather than being sort of a foot-long sandwich, it's more of a 6-inch sub, and I think therefore on balance it's probably a fair decision. Also, the referee blew instantly as soon as the incident occurred. There was no delay. So from the referee's perspective, he must have thought, yeah, that's definitely a foul on the goalkeeper.
Which is a mistake, I think. By the way, he should have waited.
I thought that was interesting, given that given the existence of VAR. But that was the decision that he made. So for me, the more interesting call was the penalty decision that came elsewhere in the game, because I watched the highlight about 10 million times from different angles. Couldn't for the life of me figure out how that was a penalty. Mm-hmm. So for Farnold saving it was justice served, in my opinion. So I'm pro the Fener perspective on the disallowed goal, but I'm against the penalty.
Okay, Yakup, what did you think of the disallowed goal and the penalty? Let's get your opinion on both.
I kind of agree with Özer. I can see why there was why people think there was a foul against Altay, because he was sandwiching between two players. I also kind of agree with you that his body language, it seemed like he tried to get the ball, he couldn't get it, and then he was like, oh, but I got fouled, just to bail himself out. So I don't think I kind of think that it's hard to say for me, to be honest. I can see why both sides think there was a wrong decision made, and I really don't think that I have like a clear answer as to what I think. Before we started, I watched the position. I thought then it was a foul. It wasn't a foul, so Altay got bailed out, but the more I watch it, the more it seems like he did get fouled. As for the penalty, I don't get it. I don't get why the penalty was given. There didn't seem to be a foul before he headed the ball. And after he headed the ball, he did get hit, but I don't know. He didn't. I don't think it should be a penalty, but I'm not the man of the law. I don't know for sure. I don't think the penalty should have been given.
Umut, what did you think of the disallowed goal and the penalty?
Well, as I said earlier to you, I don't think there's any case of being sandwiched or whatnot, because Altay himself just rushes there and, as his habit, there's his problem with the handling and grabbing the side balls, and this is poor judgment. What poor judgment gets to you, and he's too unsure to how to handle it, so he just jumps in there hoping to grab it, but then claims to be sandwiched after losing the possession of the ball. I don't know, because at first you can see that he was just landing on his foot, but he just then draws his feet afterwards just to expect a call from the ref. So I think that might be the thing about it.
Yeah, what do you think of the penalty?
I think if the penalty was given to the contact Farnol made, I think it's quite fair, because there's a harsh tackle on, I think it's Gary Rodriguez.
Moses, I think.
Yeah, I think it's Moses, yeah. It's Moses, so I think there's a harsh contact on the ball, even it's off the ball, after the ball passed, so there's a harsh and hard contact from Farnol's hands to Victor Moses there. He's kind of squished into his players there. I think it's quite fair penalty.
Do you feel that that being in the 6-yard box of the goalkeeper makes any difference or not?
No, because he doesn't have the possession of the ball.
Okay. Well, quickly, my opinion. Well, I really don't see why the goal was disallowed. I think it was a crystal clear goal. I don't think there's a sandwich here, because both of the players, both of the attacking players are already in those positions. They are with their backs towards goal, at least towards the goalkeeper. They're looking only at the ball. I don't think they have any inclination of the goalkeeper is going to come there, so I really don't see them trying to deliberately sandwich the goalkeeper. Not that it matters whether it's deliberate or not, but definitely I don't agree with Özer there that their body language showed that they were trying to put the goalkeeper off balance. I think that Altay is rushing out of his 6-yard box there. If that is in the 6-yard box, then I always agree. Okay, you give the goalkeeper the benefit of the doubt, because in that, in the 6-yard box, I've always been told you don't touch the keeper. But here, for me, this is just the goalkeeper rushing out of his own goal, and charging in, going for the ball, fumbling it, and then trying to blame it on the contact with the offensive players. But the offensive players have just as much right to go for that aerial as Altay does. They don't do anything extreme, I think. Adis Jahovic is just going up for a header. The other guy is trying to go for a bicycle kick for the falling ball. The bicycle kick especially does not do anything, because it comes after the fumble has already taken place. So the only thing you could say is that Jahovic backing into the goalkeeper, perhaps. But I don't think that applies here, because the goalkeeper is rushing in. So I don't think that then applies as backing into the goalkeeper. It's not a goalkeeper it's not like a goalkeeper standing there, jumping for the ball to pick it up, and then a guy backing up into him, putting him off balance. This is a goalkeeper running out, jumping, and, dropping the ball. The least thing that should have been done here is the referee should have allowed the play to go, to see if it ends up in a goal, then disallow it for a foul, and go to VAR and check out the position. But he immediately blew his whistle there, cancelling out any opportunity for VAR. It just felt like a bailout to me. And a little bit before that, like, I think Altay, if you look at the match just in terms of what was allowed to continue, I think Altay played an excellent match. He made some really good saves. But then if you look at this position, and if you look at a little bit before that, when he actually ended up getting quote-unquote injured, which again I think was Altay basically... I'm starting to see a little bit of a pattern with him where I think he acts like a victim when he makes a mistake in order to try and get the referee to side with him on the decision. Because a little bit before that, there's an offside position where the referees do really well and do basically apply the wait and see rule. And Altay is rushing out of goal, brings down Adisjaovic, a red card position outside of the box. But then he's bailed out because it was offside. But then he stays down for quite a while as well. I don't know. I think he got really lucky twice. If that's not offside, I think it's a red card any day. And I really don't think that there was a foul on him on the goal. So on paper, Altay had a great game, but if you watch the game, I think he had two really big brain farts in this match. And we spoke about it last week, I think, about the Turkish goalkeepers, where I kind of see the similar thing with both Uğurcan and Altay being really talented on one side of the spectrum, but they both have those little hiccups. And I think Altay has it more than Uğurcan, by the way, at the moment. Obviously, Uğurcan has 2 years on him, but I don't know. Altay, for me, he can be so impressive. He has really good one-on-one saves. He has really good reflexes and all that. But like Umut said, when it comes to those crosses, those balls from the wings, high balls, he is dodgy. When it comes to footwork, he is dodgy. And rushing out of his goal, he can be dodgy too. So he has a lot of room for improvement. So, end of the day, Fenerbahçe dropped 2 precious points. It was, I think, a very interesting first half where both teams should have maybe scored. Guilherme had a really good one-on-one opportunity with the goalkeeper. Altay made a good save there. Oh no, actually Altay didn't have to make a save, it went wide. And then Victor Moses had a really good one-on-one opportunity. I think that was in the first half too. But then in the second half, I really felt like Malatyaspor kind of faded away in the match, and Fenerbahçe were the better side in the second half. And I really think that from the two teams, Fenerbahçe probably, given how the match unfolded, will be the ones kind of kicking themselves. Interesting, though, Fenerbahçe missing the strikers. But if you look at the substitutions that Ersun Yanal actually made, and if you look what he has available to him, no Deniz Turic from the bench, no Ferdi Kadıoğlu from the bench. He didn't bring in any offensive subs, despite the fact that Fenerbahçe were looking for a goal. What do you guys think is the issue there? Ersun Yanal is known as an offensive coach, but do you think he just took solace with a point early on in Malatya already? Yakup?
I mean, I'm sorry. It is weird, as you said. Ersun is a coach known for his attacking play. He likes to attack with a lot of players. I don't know. I really don't know. I think he might have thought that the attacking players that they already had were good enough. But looking at the team sheet of the day, they had Moses on the one wing and Tolga on the other wing, and I don't know. I am a big fan of Ferdi, so I would love to see him play as many times as he can, and hopefully choose Turkey to represent. Even though I don't think it's going to happen, but yeah, I don't know. He did put Gary in, but it was the 17th minute, so it was pretty late. Deniz Turic, I wasn't a big fan of him before he joined Fenerbahçe. I didn't think he was one of the bright players at Kayserispor, but I thought because Kayserispor wasn't really the greatest team that he just shined a lot, shown a lot. I don't know. But I do think that he could have made a big difference. Him and Ferde on the midfield. Ozan Tufan is looking more and more like the player he was before he went to Alanyaspor and found himself again.
Yeah, he seems to be putting on some pounds again. I don't know if it's just an impression, but I know I mentioned it in our group, and Burak said, yeah, I've been noticing it too for the last month or so. And he just looks like his face, his neck, he just looks thicker again. And he looked leaner earlier in the season.
I kind of liked him when he played for the national team,
Yeah, he's been playing good.
I said numerous times that I'm a big fan of how he turned his career around, after being like the laughing stock of the league for the last couple of years. But I don't know if it's a mentality issue. I know that that Ersun Yanal trains the players a lot. One of the things he prides himself at is that he trains players to the bone. That pretty much all the players have a great deal of stamina. But it's weird to see that Ozan is the one regressing.
Well, he probably just has really bad genes. He clearly puts on weight super easily. I don't know. I mean, I said that he looks thicker. I don't have the impression that he is more sluggish or anything. I still feel like he's playing well enough. But I know Burak did kind of feel like his performances were suffering. I haven't really noticed that. I still think that he's playing well. But he's just, he's doing a lot. Offensively, defensively, he's contributing a lot on both sides of the pitch. And obviously offensive contribution isn't going to be his strong suit. So maybe people, again, it's kind of a situation like Ryan Babel where a lot of responsibility is being put on him right now because you don't have a Max Kruse, you don't have a Vedat Muric here. You know what? I want to put that out there too, that despite the fact that I think Malatyaspor's goal should not have been this loud, I was kind of impressed by Fenerbahçe because one of my friends said like, oh, you know what, Vedat isn't there, and they immediately collapse and stuff, and I'm like, and they're really too dependent on one player and blah and blah. But you have to take into consideration it's not just Vedat who isn't there. It's also Max Kruse, who played a very important role early on in the season, got 5 assists early on. I mean, he's obviously one of their best players. And they've been missing him for quite a while already, and they were doing still okay without him because of Vedat. But then also they lose Vedat now. They lose their backup striker Mevlut Erdinç. They didn't have a striker in this match. They had to play with a very much a makeshift lineup in one of the more difficult away games in the league. I would say with Malatyaspor being one of the tougher teams in the league, and they had to play with Alper Potuk, Victor Moses, and who else was up top? I mean, basically they didn't have a single pure attacker. Even Victor Moses is not really... I mean, they're playing as an offensive winger, but when he was at Chelsea, he played right back, he played midfield, he played a lot of different roles, but he's clearly not a pure attacking player with those instincts that I mentioned earlier with Ajana, for example. So, given those circumstances, I still thought that Fenerbahçe played a decent game and managed to put together a decent amount of chances. And Victor Moses should always put that one-on-one opportunity with Farnell away, or at least put it on target, but he puts it wide. So I think Fenerbahçe, despite the fact that they were without a striker here, could have still easily won it. But I know Fenerbahçe fans are bothered by the fact that Ersun Yanal didn't really make offensive substitutions. We've gotten your take now, Yakup. Umut, what do you think of the lack of bringing on a Ferdi Kadiolu, who was really good coming off the bench early on in the season, but we haven't really seen him in recent months?
Well, it's because I think the conditions aren't right for that, because you don't have a proper striker, as you said. So it's actually useless to bring in a supporting player up front. So because Ferdi Kadıoğlu himself cannot do anything, like as in Denizlispor as well. These kind of players need some kind of scorer inside the box to feed them, score the goals. Like as if it was Fatih Terim at the time, if he's in a similar condition without any attacker, he just puts in Donk or Maicon like last year up front to score goals. So Fatih Terim had this kind of Fenerbahçe on his hands, I think he would have put Serdar Aziz up front and just put Sadık Çiftpınar there and put on Deniz Türk kind of player to feed him with the crosses and all. I think that might be the reason to score it, because Tolga Ciğerci, Victor Moses up front, and I don't know, it's kind of useless when you don't have any strikers and so on.
Do you think that they should have taken that risk in the last, say, 10, 15 minutes or so, where they should have really tried to push for that winning goal?
Yes, they should have. They're Fenerbahçe, man. Come on.
No, but maybe, yeah. It's the league is super tight right now. All the teams are capable of dropping some points left and right. Maybe Estudiantes was, we have a point in a difficult away game. We don't want to lose this. I don't know if you want to cling on to a point like that. But
the opponent also subbed out their best player, Guilherme, and also Gökhan Töre was shit in his talent right now. So they just benched them, and Ahmet Yıldız was the guy who was coming in the last minutes to waste some time for Sergen Yalçın. So I think Arsenal should be brave enough to take that kind of risk at the time, but it failed, I think.
And finally, let's talk a little bit about Malatyaspor. We have been praising Sergen Yalçın over the last year, I would say, at Alanyaspor last year, at Malatyaspor this year. What did you think of his performance tactically here? Obviously, he wasn't on the bench because he's suspended, but do you agree with me that Malatyaspor kind of faded away in the second half, and do you think that is due to the tactical input of the coach, or maybe just...
I think the appearance of the coach on the sideline is a big thing, because I think it's underrated, but it's a thing. You kind of take the impression by the looks of it. He just looks at you in a way that you're not doing any better, or if you're doing good, he should tell it. But if he's not there, you don't get the impression. How does he think, or how tactically are we doing the thing right or wrong in any way?
Yeah. And he's not really able to impact the team in any way anymore once that they come back out of the dressing room.
Also, the Aqua they have in the midfield is...
He was really good in the first half.
Yeah, he's a good player, but he just likes the defensive habits, He's lazy out of the defense, kind of like, I think, Seri, but he's just bulky and strong, not to be compared with Seri, but ability-wise, defensively, he's lazy as him. He's just soft. By the looks of it, you can expect a player like Apia or some kind of similar manner, but he's not that player. He's far too offensive for that kind of thing. So that kind of makes some kind of defensive errors in your team. Yeah.
I think this match will largely be remembered for Emre's penalty miss. That's not something I have seen often in my life, I think.
I also didn't see Selçuk missing for some long time.
Yeah, we had that this season too.
Yeah.
And now we have Emre missing a penalty.
They're getting old.
Well, I think it wasn't a particularly good penalty from Emre. Usually he does better on those. There was also the discussion of, was the goalkeeper off his line early? Also discussion of the players were in the box early. I think a bunch of Fenerbahçe players and one or two Malatyaspor players were in the box before the shot was taken. But as we already discussed in private, really, unless those players get involved on a potential rebound or something, it really shouldn't impact the referee's decision. The only thing that matters is if the goalkeeper saves the penalty and he's off his line quickly, then it should be retaken. So the question then is, was he off his line early, Umut? You studied it closely, I believe.
Yeah, I think he's on the mid-air, just as Emre is hitting it, he just jumped to gain a power, it's a keeper habit. He just smallly jumped and tried to gain power, and he's just in the mid-air, and of course he's going forward, but there's no like violence on the rule when he's going forward after the kick is taken. So he was going, he was going forward, but I think it's a split second thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, we actually argued about it because you were initially thinking, yeah, he's off his line, this should be retaken. And I was like, no, it's not. He still has that left foot is on the, well, not really on the line because, like you say, he's in the air, but it wasn't like, sometimes you have those really blatant ones where the goalkeeper is already like a meter off his line.
Yeah, like Özer Dindjer in Istanbul 2005. You remember it?
No, I don't.
No. Milan versus Liverpool. The Liverpool goalkeeper.
Dudek.
Yeah,
With
Dudek. Yeah, he's way off the line when
He
hit
was
that.
dancing like a monkey on the line. And
That's the thing you're mentioning. Yeah.
The really but obviously I think if it's very clear, then it should be retaken. I think here, I mean,
split second.
I really didn't think he was off his line too early. Okay, so Malatyaspor and Fenerbahçe played to a draw. So really great weekend for Trabzonspor. Apart from Sivasspor, all the rivals. Apart from Sivas and Besiktas, all the rivals drop points. Galatasaray lose at home. Fenerbahçe draw. Alanyaspor lose at home. So a really good week for Trabzonspor and for Besiktas and Sivasspor, of course. So let's move over to the final match of match day 12. Antalyaspor Gaziantep. We're going to go over this one pretty quickly. This one ended 1-1. Goals here coming from Papis Djiloboc to put Gaziantep ahead in the 37th minute, but Nazim Sagari got the equalizer 6 minutes from full time in the 84th minute with a very good header to salvage a point for Antalyaspor. A point they'll desperately need because Antalyaspor do find themselves in the relegation zone at the moment. Stjepan Thomas has taken over as coach for Antalyaspor from Bülent Korkmaz. So let's quickly talk about that. Umut, you watched this game too. What did you think about this match?
Well, I think for Gaziantep, Güray Vural played really well, and he's the main brain on the team. Very experienced and great left foot. But I think there are two possible penalty calls which has been given for Gaziantep. Like two players got brought down on the inside the box, but ref didn't call it. And there was a yellow card to Oğuz, which was a controversial one because it was actually to stop a counter-attack, like a probable threat. So he just slid into the player who's Hamilton at the time and injured him because it was a harsh tackle. So it was kind of a complicated situation for me because it is a yellow card offense to just stop a counter-attack, but it's also a yellow card offense in a tackle-wise because so I think it needed 2 yellow cards at the time, but it just given like just a yellow card for him, which is a shame, to be honest, because that Antalya player got off because of the injury he took at the time. For Antalya, it's quite bad up front because they like a brain player up front. Atif Şeşu tries to help out, but the other players act like the headless chickens up front, like don't pass the final ball to empty net, or they're just being selfish and all. So that doesn't help Antalya very much. And also, as we mentioned for Sivasspor, Antalyaspor has to learn to rely on the yerli youngsters such as Doğukan and Ufuk Akyol, as they have great talents on their hands, but they don't use them often. So I think they have to be better on the yerli players.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I did forget about one match, Kasimpasa against Gençlerbirligi, so we'll get that in just a moment. But Antalyaspor not really helped to the point here. They really need to start winning some games. Gaziantep, yeah, they're in a decent position. They were kind of dropping off in form recently. It looked like they were going to get a win here, but they gave it up in the final 10 minutes. So But I think all in all, they'll be happy with a point away from home. But Antalyaspor, like I said before, they do find themselves in the relegation zone. And part of the reason for that is because Gençlerbirligi actually got another win on the road against Kasimpasa. And they managed to turn the match around in the final 10 minutes of the match here because Kasimpasa had initially taken the lead in the 54th minute through Aytaç Kara. But Bogdan Stanku scored a brace in the 82nd and 88th minute to make it 1-2 to Gençlerbirligi, the second goal coming from the penalty spot. Yakup, it was really mostly all Kasimpasa for the most part until the very end there.
Yeah, I didn't. Like if you only look at the scores, it doesn't. The score doesn't really reflect the game. To be honest, I really like Kasimpasa. I can't understand how they lost this game. I really loved seeing Quaresma. After watching the Besiktas, like the big Besiktas games of the last 3 years, and cursing him out because he lost possession and he keeps swinging balls in to the to the center and they're not connecting. He seems to really have found his old form. The form that he was trying to regain for a really long time.
Yeah.
He seems
this is the first time he's been. I didn't feel like he was playing very well at Kasimpasa, but the last couple of matches he seems to have been picking it up again.
Yeah, and it's nice to see. As a neutral fan, Quaresma as a flashy player, it's always nice to see players like that. Do their thing, and you could really see him in this game. He had some crosses that really connected well. He had some Trivela shots like always, and I really think he played one of his better games, as you said. As for like the results, the goal that Kasimpasa had was a really unfortunate one. It seems like the keeper missed. I don't know if the ball had a little bit of spin on it or the keeper misjudged how hard the ball was coming. It looked like he thought he could deflect it upwards, but the ball just like bounced off his gloves and just went into the goal. This game was a game of a couple of penalty shouts. I don't really remember if VAR was called for any of them. I don't think there were. Like Gençlerbirligi had a VAR, like a penalty shout, and a player in the box went down really easily. I don't have the name off the top of my head at the moment, but that wasn't the penalty, which was a correct decision. Kasimpasa had the same one. I think it was like with a cross, and that the Kasimpasa player went down really easily. So that wasn't a penalty. The penalty for Gençlerbirligi, I thought it really resembled the one that was given against Rizespor, for Denizlispor. And we talked about it the beginning of the podcast about how Umut said that even though the guy got the ball with his hand, there was another guy behind him that could have gotten the ball. In this game, there wasn't a guy. He was on his own, and as I said before, it's a hard decision to make as a referee because there's pretty much no natural way for a player to go for a slide without putting your arm down. Either way, you either like face plant or you put your arm down or you slow down yourself a bit. And this I can see why it was given. I think that this one is a little bit more clear as the Denizli one was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a game that Kasimpasa should have really easily won. With both of the teams being close to the relegation zone, there was a big game for both of them. I'm pretty sure that Kasimpasa is just banging their heads against the wall about how they have lost points and even a win in this game.
But they have Besiktas coming up soon at home for them, so they will get their points there. They always do. Those
Quaresma Trivela goal is incoming.
Yeah, it's written in the sky.
I mean,
in the stars.
Yeah. So all in all, Kasimpasa should have won this.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the impact that it has on the table in just a second, but we'll start with the top of the table when we look at the rankings here. Sivasspor are in first place, the lone leaders with 24 points. Then we have Trabzonpor and Basaksehir in second and third place with 22 points. And then we have two teams with 21 points. Those are Fenerbahçe in fourth and Besiktas in fifth. The goal differential here playing the part. Then we have a couple of teams on 19 points actually. We have Malatyaspor, Alanyaspor and Galatasaray all on 19 points. And then there's a 3-point drop off to Göztepe, who are on 16, and Gaziantep are also on 16 points. Then we have two teams on 14 points with Denizlispor and Rizespor. Of course, those teams faced off this weekend. And then Gençlerbirligi are out of the relegation zone right now. They are now on 13 points, the same points as Konyaspor. And Kasimpasa are on 12 points, just above the relegation zone. And then Antalyaspor have found themselves dropping into the relegation zone with Gençlerbirligi climbing out, but they're still on 12 points too, same as Kasimpasa, but worse goal differential. And then Ankaragücü are in 17th place with 9, and Caykur Rizespor are still rock bottom with 7 points. So we've spoken about it a little bit already. But next week, there's one match in particular that I think many people will be looking forward to. But let's quickly look at the schedule for next week. On Friday, Gençlerbirligi take on Yeni Malatyaspor. On Saturday, we have Sivasspor hosting Kasimpasa, Caykur Rizespor hosting Konyaspor, Alanyaspor hosting Ankaragücü, and Göztepe hosting Fenerbahçe. And that will probably still be without a striker for Fenerbahçe in a pretty difficult away game. So two back-to-back away games for Fenerbahçe in this period where they have some injuries to deal with. It couldn't have come at a worse time, I think. So that's definitely going to be another test for them. Then we have on Sunday, we have Gaziantep hosting Denizlispor, Basaksehir hosting Antalyaspor, and the big match, Trabzonpor, Galatasaray, the main event for Sunday. And then on Monday, Besiktas will host Caykur Rizespor. So the big match to look forward to is most definitely Trabzonspor Galatasaray. How will Galatasaray cope with a potential midweek disaster too in the Champions League? They have to win against Brugge to go through to the next round. If they draw, then they are out of Europe pretty much, unless they manage to get something against Paris Saint-Germain in Paris on the final match day. So Galatasaray really have to get a win against Brugge because of goal differential, and the first match ending in a 0-0 draw. So, for example, a 1-1 draw, that wouldn't give them anything either. It's going to be tough for Galatasaray coming off this loss against Basaksehir, and now, of course, heading into next week, the big match in Trabzon. Difficult times, difficult games for Galatasaray for sure. So that's what we're looking forward to the most, I think, for next week. And of course, we have the midweek European matches. Besiktas are in action against Wolverhampton, if I'm not mistaken. And like we already pointed out, Galatasaray will be playing against Club Brugge at the Turk Telecom Arena. Trabzonspor are playing against Basel, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Getafe, oh sorry. And then of course Basaksehir are playing against, I believe, Borussia Mönchengladbach, but I could be mistaken as my dog is winding up for her walk. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's episode of Football a la Turca. Thank you very much for listening. Yakup, Umut, thank you guys very much for joining me, and Özer, of course, who already checked out a little bit ago. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to be back next week with the man of the law, Burak Sezgin, and hopefully there'll be plenty to talk about again, so he can pass his judgment. But guys, thank you very much, and to you all, thank you for listening, and see you next week.
Thank you very much. Bye.